changes. So those are my changes I've done locally. If I click on that, it tells me which file I have done, and over here it shows me what I have different. So I think I just took out a space somewhere. And I'm going to be like, yes, I want to share this with everybody, so I stage it and commit it. And then I say, I hated that extra line, so I deleted it, and I commit. And once I commit, it sits in this little query place to push. If somebody in the meantime pushed while I was doing that, it's going to say, whoa, you don't have the latest, so I'd have to pull, get their changes, and then I will have the most recent version, and then I can actually send it off to the land of sharing. Push. So that's how I push and pull. And I push frequently. I think if I can't summarize what I've done in one push, then I did too much between pushes. So you'll see I'll have lots of... okay, I guess I just... That's not really informative. Whoops, my bad. But at this point, nobody else was.
My favorite is yes. That's, I think, my personal favorite as far as descriptions.
Yes. Yeah. D. Nice. Okay. All right, so this is what I like to use to push and pull. And then I like the IDE NetBeans. It also works for PC, so that's cool. I just like the way that it like colors things together, and it's easy to see where the lines are, and I'm pretty particular the way that I have stuff formatted, and also it's helpful to be able to open and close this. So NetBeans is cool.
Can you actually run it from NetBeans, or do you have to run it from the server?
I could. I didn't create a project or anything. I basically just from my Team Central file over here, I opened up the static. I just took this, dropped it in here just to play with.
Okay, so you're just using NetBeans as a straight editor. You're not doing any code. You're not doing any debugging on it.
Nope. I'm not exactly.
Okay.
Because any debugging I'm going to do is going to be in Chrome console.
Okay.
So I got my HTML page, my JavaScript page, and my CSS page that I have all these. So if I save here, it actually saves it over here. And then I just double-clicked on this, and it opens up directly from my user Mike Central, blah, 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 blah. So every time I make a change in NetBeans, like alert, hey, y'all, and save it, come over here, refresh, hey, y'all, pretty cool. So that's editing. So once I have some stuff over in my JavaScript file, I'll head over to my browser. I prefer Chrome. Firefox also works well. IE, I'm going to smack whoever uses IE. And if you're on PC, then you can't use Safari. So Chrome or Firefox? I prefer Chrome.
Me too.
Good. So Inspect Element brings up all these handy developer tools. The biggest ones you're going to use are Console and Elements. So Elements are going to show you all the HTML elements on here, and you can open, expand all these, and just dive down, and it kind of highlights up there where you're at. So like right here, I am directly on this label that says, Welcome, Dr. Frankenstein. A real cool thing with Chrome is I can go between Elements and Console, but I can also stay on Elements, put this little bugger back up a little bit, and now I got both. Here's a cool trick I have up my sleeve. I got Dr. Frankenstein highlighted. There's this little trick where you can target it. They got like short codes. $0 means target whatever is highlighted, and then I'll go more in depth with this, but then this syntax right here is the typical jQuery syntax. $, and then open, close, and then what you want to target. So I am targeting what I am highlighting. So I'm going to hide it, or I'm going to show it, or I'm going to make it empty. There's like so many things you can do with jQuery. Can't even get it in that one. But all right, crap. My train of thought's going crazy. Somebody steer me back on track.
Something like debugging actual, like your Ajax calls and stuff.
Okay, beautiful.
Debugging that and being able to see what's coming out of it so that we know how to integrate it all together.
Okay, great. Got it. We could do two things. Patient search. So let me first talk about the structure of this Ajax call, and then we can talk about how we can debug it. Sound good?
Sure.
So, hey, Will, do you want me to revisit what I talked to you about, or do you want me to just...
No, I'm recording all this, and I'm going to stick it up on YouTube, so I would be... I would go over everything again, because God knows I'll probably look at it a couple of times.
Okay, no problem. Let's start off with square one. So the structure of a JavaScript function starts with function, name of the function, and then all the parameters that you want to provide. Cool thing about JavaScript is if you have 3 parameters, you don't have to send in all 3. You can send in just like get patient, and I can just do 50, and those other 2 parameters are just undefined, which is awesome. But that's why I also always want to make sure that I have a parameter before I assign it, because I don't like sending undefined. So you have all your parameters, and you start your function. And the only thing I'm doing in this function is I'm making straight up an Ajax call. So an Ajax opens. Look, all the structures of Ajax calls look the same. You have the URL of the server that you're going to. We are directly going to the patient part of it. This is going to be the same for all of us, since this is our basic authorization token, I guess, whatever. You can either get a JSON object back or an XML object. I personally like JSON object because JSON is JavaScript object notation, and this is JavaScript. So, and then you can also include this. Basically, you can just copy and paste most of this into any Ajax call you're going to do. So what's going to differ is this data. Data is going to be all the parameters that you are sending to the server, so you can narrow down your search or results. So for this example, I have a count and how many elements I want to skip. So that should be self-explanatory. Then you provide the part that you want to happen if it successfully goes. So there could be errors, like you could misspell that and it's going to error out, and it has to know what's going to happen. So I probably could do like an error function. If it errored out, I can do some error handling right here, but we can just keep going, assuming that we are doing everything perfect. So let me just back up just a little bit. So assuming that we have everything perfect and we want exactly, or we're getting a successful return. Oh, and keep in mind that all these right here, everything's separated by a comma. So like I just did before, I added an error. So Ajax, and it'll tell you everything. There's like tons of stuff you can do. You can do like after success, or probably not, but you get the picture.
Now, parse data, that's a function that you wrote?
Yes, I wrote that. It's right here.
Okay. And that actually is taking all the information in there and putting it into various variables?
Yes, I'm getting an array back from this query, and so this is how I'm handling each element in that array.
Okay.
Excuse me. All right, so I got the success function, and then you can put in, like, I think a success function has a default, or it has up to 3, so like there's like a status or something else. You might want to look it up, but really you just need just the one, and that's the goal you want, is an object return. So any variable that you have in JavaScript that doesn't start with var is a global. So for me, I use globals and debugging. By the end, I try to get those out so that, it's a little safer not to have globals. But since this is all pink, it tells me that I can play with that out in console land. Another thing you could do is put in something called a debugger. And it will be blue, and it's a really cool tool. Because what it does is if I come over here and refresh, if I refresh right here as a regular person, it's not going to do anything. But I'm a developer, so I usually have the developer screen open. So if I refresh with this developer screen open, you can see that the debugger caught it. It has a breakpoint right here in our function. So we can look right here and say, oh, undefined, they didn't send anything. They don't have a first name, and they don't have a last name. And then at any point that you're breaking, you can just downright just put in what parameter you want. And see how it auto-populated count? I don't have a count. I don't have a first name. I don't have a last name. I'm going to continue. So those tools are over here. This is to just resume. Step over, step in, step up. And if you just want to deactivate all those breakpoints, you can click on that. So I'm going to step over, and I'm going to initialize this Ajax call. And step over, and step over. Okay, now this is jQuery in here, so that's going to be all kinds of confusion. But you can just skip all that. Skip. Or just play. All right, so went through. So I went through. Everything looked like it went normal. The success, I took our return data and I stored it in this variable called glob data. So I can take glob data and auto-populate, so I know it exists in the DOM, and I can press enter, and it's going to give me the object that I got back. Let me blow this up so you guys can see. All right, so I have the object right here. I can open it and see that what I have in this object is the author, entry, ID, yada, yada, yada. If I do glob data and I do a dot, it's going to give me all the options that I can choose. So I can go straight into entry, press that, and just now have an array of objects. So there should be 25, as you can see right here. There's an entry, and it's an array of 25. So if I want the first element, it's 0. If I want the last element, it would be 24. Press enter, and it's the same thing as doing this. Open, and there's the content, and I can just keep diving in here to see what this is and learn about it and see that I can go into content, I can go into gender, I can go into coding, I can go to the first element of that, and I can see this is a female. So if I want to do that in JavaScript, right off the bat, I would go out data, entry, I want the last one, I want, now at this point the auto stuff doesn't happen anymore because we're going specifically in here, but I can go back up here and look after the 24, it went content dot coding. The coding is an array, so I'm going to have to target a specific one. And at that point, I can target anything that's in this object, code, display, or system. So
now that's basically what you did for the parse data function,
yes.
Correct? Okay.
Oh no! What did I do wrong? Coding. Hang on. Content. Oh, did I miss gender? Totally missed gender. Amateur mistake. Sorry, guys. Gender.coding. There we go. Lovely. Okay. Content, gender, coding, array, blah, blah, blah. So you see how I got female? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I had an error, but that's part of that. Like, I found out how to get to it. I went over here in parse data, and so this might be a little more complex. There's a jQuery each, so you pass in an array, and then you give it a function of how to handle each one of those elements. So I sent in entry, so I had 25. And so for each iteration, it's going to do this. So this function takes two parameters. First one's going to be the index. And first time it comes around, this is going to be entry of 0. So E would be 0, entry is going to be, let's see what entry 0 is going to be. Entry 0. So if I wanted to go through the steps physically, I can grab this and know that at this point that's where I'm at in this code. So page and content is going to be the same thing. It's what I have over here. I could even do another extra step and just go ahead and do this. Like say, well, that's what I got on the other side. I'm going to assign that. So now I can play directly with patient content right here. So I could copy this code. Paste entry doesn't work.
Uh-oh.